All right, welcome back. You can also set at this section. We're looking at constraints, um, dependence. We'll be looking at constraints, milestones, and deadlines. Now, in the last section, we'll look at dependencies. It's also important for me to note that if you want to set dependencies, you can also input um, it in form of code, in a form of calculation format. For example, if I want this to start, um, if I want C7 to start um, 2 days after the finish of, and 2 days before um, item number 6 finishes, I can set 6fs minus 2, and if it is 2 days after, I can set 6xf plus 2. So this is finishing on Thursday. Instead of it to start the next day, it starts plus it leaves additional 2 days, then it starts the following day. Alright, so these 2 days is called lead. The 2 days either having a plus or minus is called lead and lag. Now let's look at constraints. Now to get the constraint of a project, if I double click on an activity and I go to the task property, sorry, we are going to task property and I move to the advanced section. This advanced section, I can see what I call constraints. I can see deadlines. Now constraints are used to set the particular conditions or conditions that must hold for that activity. Yeah, a whole lot of them. There's as soon as possible, there's finish no earlier than, not finish no later than, must finish on, must start on, no earlier than, then start no later than. Now it's typically at the initial stage, what you have is your as soon as possible, but then I can set this to finish no later than, I can set it to finish not later than, and I can set it to finish not earlier than, and I can set it to start not earlier than, and I can set it to start not later than. Now for example, if to book a caterer, if the caterer said it requires about 2 months notice, and that means that at least 2 months before the exact wedding day, my I must have booked my um 2 months before the exact wedding day, I must have booked my caterer. So that means that if I click on this, I will go to constraint type, I will click start no later than, then let me say the 2 months before my this thing, my it becomes let me say that is on the 30th. Let's say 30th of March is 2 months before, so I click that and I put it there. Now that becomes a constraint on that activity. So no matter the settings, no matter what I do here, I must not start this activity later than that particular date. For example, even um if it is other year, if I want to set this as start not earlier than, One said I start not earlier than 2nd of April. 2nd of April. You see that it automatically changes the time it can start to 2nd of April, and then I cannot set it to start earlier than the 2nd of April. So this just sets constraints within your project that can help you monitor your project. Now, the other type of what we have is what we call deadlines. Is what we call deadlines. Deadlines does not affect the duration. Deadline just showed you when something must be done. Deadline just show you when something must be done. For example, for the shortlist of caterer, if I want to set a deadline of April 7, latest by April 7, I must have shortlisted all of my caterers. April 8, sorry, I must have shortlisted all of my caterers. Now I come to the deadline section, I come to the shortlist of caterers, and I see it's April 8. You see the deadline marker, but since that has gone and my time is beyond that, so let me set the deadline to around April 17, April 19. So now the deadline is now on April 19. You can see where the arrow is. You notice that when I set it on April 17, it shows a particular caution sign here, which shows that the deadline, the time I set this activity to start, had exceeded the deadline I've set for the activity. Now, but now this time the deadline is beyond the finish time, which means that I must meet up with this deadline. This is to set deadlines for an activity. So this deadline shows you an indication from your chart of what must be achieved before that particular day. Then the third one we'll be looking at here is what we call milestone. Milestone are majorly used to report to the management. You can generate milestone reports to present to the management in order to show what must be achieved by a particular time, a particular date. For example, when I go to venue and I want to set a milestone for venue booking, I can come here and when I select seating arrangement, I can come and select milestone. It automatically creates a milestone directly above set seating arrangement. And now in the milestone section, I can input the milestone name, venue booked. Now, venue booked means that I must have booked my, by that date, my venue must have been booked. It shows, it tells the management have an overview of what must have been done by a particular period of time. It is important to know that milestones do not have duration. Their durations are 0 days. And so you can set when your venue must have been booked. I can set it to the 16th of April. I can set it to the 16th. I mean, to the yeah. Let me set to the 18th or 19th of April. So 19th of April, you find the milestone here saying that by 19th of April, venue must have been booked. By the 19th of April, venue must have been booked. By the 19th of April, venue must have been booked. So um, you can typically see how to set constraints. Constraint looks at the boundaries of your project, the constraints, whether your project must start not earlier than, whether it must finish not later than, or it must finish not earlier than, whether it must start as soon as possible, whether it must start before this. Then you can also set deadlines. Deadlines are specific dates by which your project must have been accomplished, or an activity, sorry, must have been accomplished. And then you can also set milestones to show the management of things that must have been done even by a particular time. And so, for example, other groom dress, I can also set other groom dress to be a milestone. You can say mark task as a milestone. Now, if you come here, you can see if I want to set a date for it. Um, Let me say I set the 26th. Sorry, let me say I want to set the 26th of April. 26th of April. Now, 26th of April has been set. Now, the reason why this is here is because it's a milestone, and so there's no way I cannot put a timeline for a milestone. The automatical date for milestone is 0 days. If I delete all of this, it's 0 days for milestone. It's 0 days for milestone. So, because it's a milestone, it is not possible for me to set the duration. If I try to set it, it doesn't show any effect within the chart. The only thing that you have here is you still have it just as a milestone showing when the two would have been done, which is the 27th of which is the 26th, sorry, 26th of April must have been finished. And so that means I've set this as a milestone. It can be an activity and also be a milestone. Being an activity means that it's here, and then I can set the milestone to be directly above it. So we have that. We have guide race ordered as a milestone for the 6th of April. Um, you have groom dress ordered as a milestone for, okay, I've removed groom dress ordered as in a milestone, but we have guide race ordered as a milestone for the 6th of April. Now you can easily filter this. You can filter this. If I want to show milestone only, I come to view, I come to filter, and I come to milestones. Now this shows only the milestones that you have within your project. It shows only the milestones that you have within your project. And so with that, we've come to the end of this section on milestones, constraints, and on setting milestones, on setting constraints, and on setting deadlines. We'll see you in the next slide. Thank you for joining us.